Hello and welcome to Not So Awesome Review, and today we're taking a little bit of a look at the Spartan Yori from the Spartan Collection here. Forgetting the company's name, I have the box right there, but I can't even see it, but it is what it is. You guys know the company. But, yeah, so this figure, I wanted to do a review on it when it came out, but I couldn't find it, and that was back, in November or somewhere around there. Just found it today at my local Target, sitting in, the wrong section. It was in front of the Power Rangers and Transformers, and was like, do I want it? I picked it up, walked around with it, and was like, yeah, okay, I'll get it. Because it looks good. It's a really nice looking figure. The gold on it came out really good. The red on it looks really nice. It's just a really nice looking figure in general. I think I've seen people pick this figure up not knowing anything about Halo just because of how crazy good this armor looks. Now, the Spartan Collection always has its issues when it comes to waist articulation, which I've tried making this video 3 times. Not this video, but the video I'm about to talk about, as I did find a way to get my own waist articulation. It's a non-destructive mod, and yeah, every time I filmed it, it never came out the way I wanted to, but I want to mod this guy. I figured, okay, I'm going to do it, show you guys how to do it on this figure, but this one is going to be different than my usual thing. This one, I'm probably going to have to ruin his waist a little bit, his original waist anyway, because I'm going to want to cut some pieces off. But before we get too far into it, a few things I want to talk about that I am going to try and mod is the head. I'm going to try and add a little bit of, I don't know what the right word is. I'm going to try and Dremel out the hole in there on the sides so that he can pivot his head a little bit, see if it works. It might or might not. It's just to see. I've tried it a few times and it kind of works, kind of doesn't. But it would be nice to be able to get a little bit of a head tilt in there because he doesn't really have any. And again, it would be nice to have that extra articulation. Unfortunately, can't do anything about the ugly knees. I've been thinking about that since Master Chief from Halo 2 and just cannot figure out a way. For some reason, they did give him the crappy ankle articulation. By that I mean they gave him the peg straight down for some reason instead of the peg going out, which I did fix on my Halo 2 Master Chief, which I'll show in a second, but it's pretty easy. I'm not going to do it tonight. This is going to be like a little bit of a longer video in my perspective because it's late at night and I'm going to be using a hairdryer to heat this guy up, so, you know, I don't want to wake everybody up, but basically I'm going to pop these off and I'm going to drill a new hole on the side right there. I can see why they didn't do it maybe because it is a little bit thinner here because of the weird foot articulation that he has, but I think he should actually be able to get away with it. Master Chief from Halo 2 had the same foot thing going on right here where it moves up, and maybe that's why they decided to put it straight down, although he has a lot more room than he does. But I did give him ankle articulation by doing that, so it helps a lot more than you would think. So gonna do that to this guy. And then the waist mod, which I actually did on here. And in case anyone's wondering, you know, this Master Chief is fully painted metallic green. Looks a lot better. I'll try and get some photos of it up so you guys can get a little bit of a nice review and everything. The only thing I want to do kind of left to it is either try to print 2 more battle rifles, which I did modify a file on Thingiverse to be the right size and fill in all the empty gaps. But printing it in like a nice quality is hard. I'm using a filament printer and not a what is that stuff, resin printer. If it was a resin printer, I feel like it would come out a lot better. Weapons, small things just does not come out good on filament. But yeah, I just want that because I really want this to go in that way. My only other option would be to drill out that hole all the way, which I'm considering doing, if I'm being honest, because I don't like how the gun pegs in backwards, but that's a whole nother issue. As for the waist, which, can I zoom out a little bit? I don't think I can. You can see here, he does have waist articulation, which this I can move down when there's any gappage, so it's not that big of an issue, but he can move up, down, side to side. You can see a little bit of a seam line there. There is no more detail in the waist, so if he's doing a vanilla pose, you won't see like that cool armor detail underneath. But if he's doing a vanilla pose, I can always just plug in the original waist, at least with this figure, because all I did was pop it off and make my own. So the way I'm going to do it with this guy, again, it's going to be a little bit more destructive. Let's put that away. So I'm going to pop his waist off right here. Basically, what I figured out is that all the newer Spartans can hold themselves really well here. You know, the ball peg here works fine. You don't need to have the waist kind of hold it up. Now, the original Master Chief from Wave 1, he did. I'm sure that Red Spartan and White Spartan probably did. And Kat, her body is completely different. You can't really do this mod, but she already had more waist articulation than everybody else. Basically, all the female figures. I think there's only 2, but their waists are done differently, and they have that waist articulation. Maybe not as good as this mod gives, but you can see, you know, if it wasn't for this giant piece of plastic here, we have a really good amount of articulation. And even with my modded, you know, added thing, you kind of keep it. So, a few things here. The new waist is going to be made with this foam here. It's like squishy foam. I don't know what it's called, but you can get this at Walmart in like the sewing section. Not too much money. I'm sure you can get it at Joann's or any other fabric store. I don't think Michael's or Hobby Lobby. Maybe Hobby Lobby because they do sell half fabric, but never looked for it there, never seen it there. Michael's just doesn't have fabric in general, but it's like the spongy material that you would kind of have if you have a kind of foam mattress or whatever. It's just foam, but like fabric foam, not thinking diorama foam if anyone's thinking that. It's really, you know, movable and stuff. I have like a whole sheet of this just in case I mess this one up or I don't like it because it has a cut right here or whatever reason. So yeah, I'm gonna pop that off. And usually the way I measure this is from the waist down and going around, but his waist is different, where most of the other Spartans have kind of this like underwear thing going here where I can measure it, or I can, you know, measure from the top, which is what I'm going to do here, is I'm going to go around from the top and kind of just do that and go around. I'm going to do this off camera where it's easier, but basically I'm going to fold it around like that. And then see where the seam is right here, where it kind of, this end meets here. Then I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to cut it to size. The part that's going to be a little bit tricky for him is that his back waist does come up a lot more than the Chief does here, and some of the other figures. And not just that, the design. So, I'm going to try and make this more of a permanent thing for this figure. Because just adding this and then covering it with this black pleather fabric, which is the next thing, which I should have. I have it somewhere here. I don't know, it might be in my closet actually. But basically black pleather cosplay fabric from Joann's is what I use. It's the best thing you can get. It's the Yaya Han brand. I believe she's a cosplayer. She has her own fabric line partnership thing with Joann's. If you get it, buy it by like a quarter of the yard. You're going to get a bunch and it's going to be cheap. If you buy a full yard, which I think is what you have to do if you order it online, can be a lot more money. You can try using a coupon, but that's my advice on that. We'll get more into the fabric in a little bit here, but yeah, I want to keep these metal pieces, at least the little vents here. Maybe if I can do it, and then there's like this piping thing going around here. Might keep, might not, I don't know, but I can heat these up and pull them out. These are just plugged in, which, you know, makes it pretty, I wouldn't say easy, because I did do June's and I had to remove his backpack and that took a while, but that should be doable with this by removing that with heat. The front one, though, is sculpted onto this, which is a little bit annoying, which is why this is going to be more of a destructive mod for this figure. You don't have to do it. You can leave it and just, I don't know, just pose him in a way where you wouldn't see it, I guess. I'm going to try and put it on there and glue it on to the fabric, because why not? It's my figure, I paid for it, and I want to try and do this and see how it comes out. So I'm going to try and cut that using either an X-Acto knife or something. I'm going to be careful. I'm probably going to wear gloves because I just have this feeling that if I don't, I'm going to cut myself, because it's just my luck. I might even try to cut the little tubing around here and just have that glued on to the bottom there. But yeah, adding these pieces should, keep the articulation that I'm going to be giving him and make it look a little bit nicer and everything. Again, the more challenging part I feel is going to be keeping this back piece up when I cut the fabric, but who knows, maybe I'm just overthinking it. But like, if you see here, it does come up more. So what I might end up doing to just make this work a little bit better, if it doesn't look right to me, which like I said, that doesn't look too bad. If it doesn't, I'm going to cut another piece of this foam and then just sew it onto here. And yeah, so a few advice pieces here, and I'll show in a little bit. When you put this together after you cut it, sew it on, don't glue, don't fabric glue, don't hot glue. Sew it on like 3 little things, like one circle right here, one circle in the middle, and it doesn't have to be anything like professional, but sew it on, don't glue, because it'll just be better. If you use hot glue, it'll get too hard. Fabric glue probably won't even stick, so yeah, just sew it. It's pretty easy. You don't need to know what you're doing. And yeah, so I guess I'm going to measure this out, cut this here, and my allergies are bugging me, so I feel like I'm not speaking perfect English. I apologize. But yeah, gonna do that and make my little fake waist here. And then after I do that, I'll get on to making the black pleather thing to cover it, and we'll move on from there. Alright, let's try this again because I did run out of memory card space. So, a few updates here really quick is I was able to get the side pieces off, these little things right here that go on here. I was able to just wiggle them out. Didn't have to use any heat, thankfully, so I was able to do that tonight instead of having to wait for tomorrow, because that would have sucked. I'm debating on if I'm going to cut this part here off, or if I'm going to just cut a slit into the foam that I made and just stick it in there. Don't know yet. We'll decide later. I cut the front piece off, which came from the front body here. Used the X-Acto knife. Wasn't too difficult. Again, be careful, you don't want to cut yourself. And I did cut the tubing that was around the bottom of the body. I was debating on cutting these vents. I might still do it later, don't know yet. But I cut the tubing just to add to the waist, and then I glued it on with some Loctite super glue. It's not the best look. It did get cut up in a few places. But, I mean, I think once I have everything together, it'll look fine. And I can paint over it, and yeah, I think it'll come out okay. Main thing I did here was the body is pretty much done. Again, 2 knots, so double knotted. So basically you're going to get your thread and your string, going to come out, tie a knot, go in one more time, tie another knot, do it again for the bottom. I could do it for the middle, but I don't think I need it. Sometimes you will want to cut out a little bit here on the bottom so that you can fit this here without it kind of expanding too much, because it can make it look a little bit fat. So that depends on the figure. But we got that. I can put it in there, close it, which I'll just do right now so you guys can get a little bit of a look. But you can see it doesn't look too bad. If I need to, I can still shave it down and everything. But there you go. Forward, side to side. So we're getting there with that. Like I said, this is going to get glued on here. And my goal is to hopefully be able to push it down so when he bends forward, it kind of just goes over it. I don't think we'll get any paint rub. We'll be good right there. So yeah, anyways, taking that back out so that we can go on to the next step, which I've already cut my fabric here. This again, cosplay 4-way stretch Jayahan pleather fabric from Joann's. Doesn't have to be this. Shop around if you guys want a look on Etsy or anywhere where else that sells pleather fabric. Pleather being the key word here. You don't want to use real leather. Pleather. So yeah, but like I said, 4-way stretch. Main thing with the fabric when you cut it is to make sure that it fits around it perfectly. You don't want it to be a little too short and then have to tighten it, because then you're going to be compressing the foam. You don't want it. It's not going to come out good. Trust me, I've tried this a lot. You're going to want to make it bigger so that you can tuck it in if you have to. It's better to have more than less and cut it down later. So you're going to sew that on and try and make sure that, once you sew it, the seams are going to be lined up here. In case you're wondering how to sew the fabric, just, you know, find where you're going to do it. This is cut a little bit lopsided, but basically you're going to line it up like that backwards. You know, the pleather part is on the inside, the fabric-y part is on the outside. You're going to sew it like that, and then you're going to flip it out the other way so that the seam line is coming inside, and it'll look better, basically. Don't know how the best way to explain that is, but there we go. You can kind of hear maybe my voice is going a little bit, but yeah, you want this part, the seam, to always be on the back of the figure because it'll just help hide it. You don't want it in the front, obviously, and it kind of adds to that like back piece here because we're not going to have that kind of spine looking thing. So, you know, it is where it is, but I'm going to sew that up. Then I'll glue these on somehow and update from there, and then tomorrow I will work on these because I do have to use my Dremel to do the articulation there, but that I'm fairly confident in. It's not too difficult. This, because I had to do more cutting and stuff, it's a little bit more experimental than I'm used to. At this point, I've just been knocking them out pretty easily, but I did want to keep the armor on this figure, so I had to go the extra mile and disconnect a few things and cut up a few things. But it is what it is. That's what customizing is. You know, you're going to mess up some figures. You're going to cut some figures up. You're not going to, you know, keep them pristine and be able to put them back to normal. This Master Chief and all the other ones I've done so far, been able to put them back to normal without an issue. This will be the first one where I'm like, yeah, it's fully destructive, as in I could put the old waist in. I could still glue everything back on, but it's not going to look as good as it did brand new. Hopefully I'll find another one in the future. If I kind of like don't like how this comes out, I'm sure I'm going to like it. I kind of want one in green, so maybe I'll get one to paint, but we'll see. Either way, gonna move on and finish this off here. Alright, battery's getting low, so just wanted to do this quick update. I did sew it here. It's not the best job. If I used my sewing machine, it'd be better, but yeah, again, make sure you sew it with the non-leathery, pleathery side down, like that, all the way down, back stitch, everything, knots on each end. Again, this one's going to be a little bit bigger than it needs to be, but I do like tucking them in. I haven't figured out a way to make it more snug yet, but maybe in the future I'll sit around and try and figure that out. But using the method I've been going with, like I said, sewing machine would be better because I wouldn't be getting these kind of issues here, but once you put it out, it is a pretty good clean seam, and all you got to do, stick it like that in there. Again, line up both seams so they're on the same side. Get it somewhere like that. If it's too big, what I'll do is I'll cut some of it off, and then I'll have to re-sew just so that it doesn't fall apart. But it should be good, especially if I tuck this in on the top, because I have more room on the top than the bottom. Usually I can hide it a lot better because the Spartan armor here gives me a little bit more clearance to hide it. So hopefully I'll be able to do that with this. But get it on, something like that. Pop the other end on, and we should be good. So see if I can do this before the battery dies. Okay, so this is what we got so far, and it's definitely far from perfect. He looks a little bit flabby because it could be a little bit more form-fitting, but you know, I can go back. I have more foam. I can make some more. I can make like another body if I have to. Like I said, it's a little bit flabby right there, so I'm gonna have to cut down more of the fabric and stuff, but you want to leave a little bit of extra just so when he leans back, there is some there. Same for when he leans forward, but yeah, this is a little bit too much. Gonna definitely cut down on it somewhat, make it fit a little bit better. Again, it's a little bit hard here because it does just kind of end here. If the body went up a little bit more on the inside, I could definitely hide it in there better, but it is what it is. It's not horrible, but it definitely isn't great. So gonna try and fix that, and then the next step will definitely be kind of getting this glued on somewhere around right here. And then because it is foam, I can just move it in and keep that articulation and move it back out from when I need to. So it's not perfect, but it'll be something like that, and I'm okay with that. So gonna need to do that and get these pieces in here somewhere.
I think the best thing to do, honestly, will be to cut this, but I'm going to see how gluing this to the fabric works first, because if it doesn't work great, then I think cutting it might be a little bit better, because maybe I can glue it onto the fabric and into the foam. I'm hoping it stays good. I know that the glue does melt the pleather a little bit, but it will stick. But it does give it a melted look, so it's kind of like a one-shot thing, especially since it's super glue. But that's where we are right now. Alright, so final update on this part right here for the waist. And I did end up cutting the pieces and just gluing them on. I did glue one on backwards on accident, and you can kind of see a little bit where the fabric ripped. Actually, my settings are a little bit high there. There we go. Yeah, so that's what I meant by it's kind of like a one-shot, because it rips the fake stuff up to the fabric. But I can always redo it again if I don't like it. I do feel like it is still a little bit too chunky, but for the most part, it's not bad. And again, I got it so that anything can go under. So if he wants to bend forward, he can still bend forward. He can bend back really good. If you want to bend him to the side, you can bend him a little bit, or you can just kind of put your finger in there, tuck that in right around there. Then you can get a good amount in either way. It's not the most graceful thing. You can also do it from the outside a little bit, which is good. So it's 1,000 times better than what it had. That's for sure, and that was the main part, because he couldn't move anything, period, the way he was before. Yeah, it's still a little bit limited, but I feel like it's more realistically limited now, because it's limited by the floating armor pieces, which, again, you can kind of tuck in or over the other armor parts. It's not going to be for everybody. The back of it definitely looks chunky, but my idea for this figure really isn't too much Spartan, modern, you know, or futuristic Spartan. To me, this looks more like if it was a Spartan in samurai times. That's what I'm going to pose it with anyway. When I do photography and stuff with it, it's going to be more of that kind of stuff than fighting. I mean, I guess it would still be considered a Covenant, but I'd want it to be like one of those, like, manga realization, is that what they call them? Or, you know, like the Star Wars realization, where they do, like, Samurai Vader or something like that. That's kind of the idea I had when I was looking at this figure. Again, the back of it could be tidied up a lot better if I just go in there and cut down the foam a little bit more and then redo this. It'll look better. Maybe I'll do that in the future, but for now, I'm kind of happy with where it is, considering it did end up working. I think I may have peeled off a little bit of the red here because of the glue on my hands, so be careful with that. I don't mind as much, because it does just add to battle damage, and I'm probably going to add a little bit of a wash to this figure, but yeah, I think for what it is, it's not bad. I meant to get some B-roll of this figure before I took it apart, but it is what it is. I'll get some photos and post them so you guys can see. But yeah, tomorrow morning, or next up in the video, I'll be trying to add that ankle pivot, because that is very much desperately needed so that he can pose a lot better. Alright, so it's the next morning, and I have the foot taken out here. You can see this is the right foot. I want to say there's an R on there, actually, if I remember. Yeah? At the very bottom, I think. Anyways, this is a little bit more of an angle than I was expecting. I was expecting it to be a little bit more in the middle going down, but I might still be able to pull this off. My goal here is to, since this is more or less straight down, is to go in that way. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to pinch somewhere around, like, right there with this bit. I'm not really sure what, you know, the sizes of any of these are. They're just what I have, so I'm not technical with that, but pinch in there so that I have somewhere to grab onto when I use the bits here. So I'm going to probably start off with the smaller one, go in there, widen it out a little bit with this one so that the hole is around the right size. This is more the size of the bottom hole right there. And then go in with this one at the end to make the inside of it wider so that the actual peg has something to grab onto, because it does have that little indent on the outside right there, and so you want that part to fit good so it doesn't just pull out either. It's what I did with the Master Chief, so yeah, that's gonna be my goal. Hopefully it comes out okay. I'm gonna do my best not to ruin the top of it. If it doesn't come out, I'm fine with it. It is what it is. I wish that this part was a little bit more back because it would make making this mod a lot easier. I stand by, they could have done this themselves in the factory. I don't know why they designed it this way, but we'll see how this goes. Alright, so I was able to kind of get this to work. Like I said, I knew it was going to have these, like, some issues considering how off-center it was, and I definitely got a little bit more right here than I wanted to. So it's not perfect. You can see a little bit of the black. It definitely shows, so that's kind of annoying, but it does work. My only other option would be to kind of cut down a little bit of the peg. I don't really want to do that, but I might do that in the future. But it is on there, and like I said, you can see it lifting up a little bit right there. Gonna try and do this one, might try and do it a little bit straighter, obviously, but we'll see how that goes. It's not bad, it works, it's just, it's popping out a little too much for me. Again, I'm pretty sure I can just cut down a little bit of the peg and I'll be fine. I don't think it'll be, like, it's in there pretty snug, and I think it'll stay snug even without that part there. That's kind of where I'm going with this. So we'll see how it goes. And I'm doing this by hand right now because it's just easier. Yeah, so I'm gonna finish this leg up and we'll see how this thing finishes. Alright, so as a quick update, here is the other hole, just in case anyone is wondering what it looks like, where I did it. It's right there. And I don't need to use, like, both or all, I guess, of the little bits I showed. One of them is really just to, like, put a guide there. One of them is to go in, and the other one's a little bit bigger. And it just feels a little bit safer to use that one after. The other one, the last one with the little ball thing at the end, is to open it up so that the peg can fit. Sorry it keeps going in and out of focus. If I could lock the focus I could, but I'm holding this with one hand. But yeah, just a quick look at where it's going to go. I'm going to clean this up and then heat this back up and put the peg in and see how it looks. Alright, so here we have the figure basically complete and done, and a few things. I did try to mod the head, like I said, by drilling a little bit of a canal on both sides. But because of the way the helmet is shaped and everything, it just doesn't give any room. The helmet sits way too far low, so can't do anything about that. Though it did make it looser and easier to pop off, and if I wanted to, I could put June's head on there, and I think it actually looks pretty good. If I could find another just random head sculpt that I can put on there that fits, I might do that for some photos, because I think, again, it just looks good. Overall, I'm happy with how it turned out. Yes, there is still a little bit of the peg coming through at the foot on the sides that you can notice it if you look at it. Otherwise, I think the payoff is worth it because this figure is really gummy. It's really rubbery. He doesn't stand too well just in general, and the fact that he didn't have that ankle pivot definitely didn't help. He's falling over a little bit less now that he has it. That's not to say that, like, okay, he can pose and he can hold that pose. No, he's still really odd. He's bulky. He's not, I don't know. It's not the ankles that are weak on him. It's just, I don't know if it's just a rubbery body or what. Something about it makes it so he can't pose too well, but it is possible. I got him in some few poses here, and yeah, overall, I'm happy with how everything came out. The body, I did go back and cut a little bit more of it to make it a little bit thinner, and then put the same black fabric that I had already cut. I didn't feel like cutting it tighter or anything. I probably should, and I probably should cut like a little bit more to the top and the bottom to make it a little bit less bulky, but it works for what I'm doing here. So overall, this one, again, I think it came out good, and I love it, and I recommend trying this mod, but if you're going to try it on another figure first, not one where you have to cut up pieces like this. Like I said, the only other one I had to do it with was June. And, yeah, actually, let's take a quick look, because I do have some of these figures here. We have June. The backpack had a peg that went into his body, but for the most part, I mean, it looks good. You know, it gives that extra articulation, especially for left and right movement, because the figures are kind of limited in that. I mean, they're limited in almost everything with the waist, but they're really limited when it comes to, like, moving left and right, and it's just kind of weird, and, yeah, things do fall over. Master Chief is probably my favorite one, because I did kind of go all out with his custom. Yeah, it doesn't have the textured body or anything, but I do still have those body pieces. I usually just keep them because they come up or off in one giant piece like this, though. Again, this one I did cut the pieces off of it because of that figure, but I think he came out really good. He's my favorite in terms of overall customizing because the green he was before just was not good. I did 3D print out his battle rifle, so he had a battle rifle. And, yeah, I tried making a video on his customization so many times, but just was not coming out good. And this one probably still didn't come out that great, because I'm not good with tutorials, but I tried my best. That's the best I can say here. I do have Emil here. His is a little bit limited because of the vesting here, and it really should be a gray color and not black, but I mean, it's really hard to notice. If I can find a gray, there we go, a gray fabric pleather, I'll probably use it on him. Some of the other Spartans, like the random just armored ones, they also use like different body armor, so you might want to match the pleather you get for those with that. Some of them have some armor on them that you might want to try and replicate. I don't know how, but I'm sure somebody can do like a better job than what I did. But I think it is a good step in the right direction. Here we have Noble 6, and I feel like his torso actually came out the cleanest. It's small, it's sleek, it comes up a little bit in the back, but not too much, and I think, yeah, it adds so much. Every once in a while something like that can happen where there's a little bit of gappage, but you just pull it down, and you're fine. And if you really want to, you can just hot glue it there. It won't really damage the figure. Maybe you'll damage a little bit of the material if you take it off or whatever, but it's always something you can resew, especially with just 1/4 yard of this material. It'll, get you a long way. So, yeah, I think he came out my favorite when it comes to just how clean his torso looks and how much articulation he has. So, happy with that one, and again, happy with the, what was it called again? Disarmor. Man, I already threw away the box since last night, so can't even reference the box. And I keep wanting to say Hayabusa, but it's not Hayabusa. I hope they do Hayabusa. That would be amazing. But, yeah, so there it is, my little upgrade for this figure. I will add, just because, this gun, we have gotten it before with one of the other Spartans. I'm so glad they added the brown to the handle, because it does give it a little bit of an older feel. Just matches the samurai thing a little bit more. I do feel like the gun needs a little bit of a wash, and I do think the figure might still get a little bit of a wash just to bring out that little extra detail. But otherwise, it looks good. I love it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope this inspires some of you to try and make your own custom torsos for these figures. I had the idea when I got that Master Chief, and I took his torso apart, and it was just like, if I just put something soft in there or something, remake the torso, it would be better. And then I remembered I had that foam and was like, this could work. So sat there, did like 3 prototypes until I got one that fit just right, got it in there, covered it with that pleather, and I mean, there you go. It's pretty simple. Again, for the most part, non-destructive. For June, you will have to force out that backpack. It was really hard to get out. I'm just going to put that out there right now. But for Halo 2 Master Chief, for Halo Infinite Master Chief, for Noble 6 here, really simple. I will say that Jerome has a piece of armor on his chest, on his torso, I should say, that, I mean, I don't want to destroy that figure, but if I found another one, I might get, just so I could cut that piece off and put it on there like I did with this guy, so that the armor is always on there. The reason I did it with him is because it's my figure. I know I'm not going to resell it. I actually really like how this guy looks, and figured it will look better if I put the armor on there than having to switch back and forth between the torsos. Again, this one was a little bit more difficult because his does have this giant piece here, but aside from that, I think everything worked out good. And again, the ankle mod I did on this guy works on the Halo 2 Master Chief. Works better on the Halo 2 Master Chief, actually, because of the way his feet are. You won't have that issue where it's kind of pushing a little bit of the other side of his toes out. But yeah, anyways, again, not great at tutorials, but hopefully this was entertaining to somebody and you guys enjoyed it, and maybe you guys will make your own. And if you do,
post some pictures at me at what Otto does on Instagram so I can take a look and just see if you guys do something better than I did, because I'm sure I am like 100% positive someone out there is gonna like outdo this mod, but it's gotta start somewhere, and hopefully this is where it starts so that we can get some good ab crunch with these figures and get some better posing than what we were getting before. But anyways, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all later. Goodbye.